This video was made possible by subscribers like you. Thank you. This video is about the old school Fiat 124, the Sport Coupe, convertible, and the TC Special Sedan from the 1960s to the 1980s. If you have one of these cars, I have 5 secret tips to help when you replace your rear brakes. I recently did the rear brakes of my 1970 Fiat, and it reminded me of some of the special considerations for this car. I replaced both rear calipers, brake pads, rotors, and 3 flexible brake lines. The rear calipers are different from the front because they include a parking brake mechanism behind this black rubberized cover. That mechanism is activated by this arm. The hydraulic parts are very similar to the front calipers. There's a brake bleeder screw on top, a black rubber seal, and this slotted piston. Can you see the other, thinner line cut in the face of the piston? It is the slotted piston that will reveal the first secret. In this diagram, it is labeled Reference Mark A. It is there to help orient the internal parts of the caliper so that the brake fluid will flow correctly. If it arrives like this one, you simply rotate the piston with a large screwdriver or brake piston retractor tool to align the mark with the bleeder screw. This reference mark must be turned upwards towards the brake bleeder screw. So, caliper secret number 1. Align caliper piston reference mark. The Fiat 124 came with an ingenious brake compensator for the rear wheels. Intended to keep the rear wheels from locking up under hard braking, it had a special valve body and linkage connecting the chassis to the rear axle. This diagram shows the general layout. The linkage traverses parallel to the rear axle. This manual shows another view. You can see the valve body, the linkage rod, and the clevis bracket connecting to the rear axle. I've painted my bracket red. Here it is, held by 2 10mm bolts. The secret is to make sure the valve body is completely relaxed when you bleed the brakes of air. Now, you can just remove the lower bracket bolt and wedge a wooden block to force the linkage rod up against the bottom of the car. Or you can use a wooden block like this one with a hole partially bored into the center. Interposed between the jack and the differential, you won't crush the drain plug threads. Simply raising the rear axle up will rotate the linkage rod, opening the valve body and allowing the correct flow of fluid for brake bleeding. Caliper secret number 2 is relax the brake compensator. I replaced not only the spiffy rear calipers, but 3 important flexible hoses as well. For such small items, they retained a surprising amount of air. I fixed a piece of clear tubing to the brake bleeder screw before opening it. After topping up the fluid reservoir, I put the other end of the tube into a glass container. And just let gravity force most of the air out before bleeding the system. There are several popular vacuum-powered brake bleeder tools available. They all have the advantage of allowing you to bleed the brakes by yourself. Read and follow the instructions and take your time. I was really surprised at how much air was trapped in the lines from just replacing those calipers and hoses. Caliper secret number 3, remove all the air from the system. One thing I really enjoy about my Fiat 124 is how original it is. That also means the brake system is loaded with old school seals and tolerances. Here's my view from the hard shoulder as I wait for traffic to thin out. just long enough so I can crawl under and open a bleeder screw to release excess pressure. Yeah, I was real happy about that. It turns out that modern brake fluids can be bad for old brake systems. Those super do-goody modern synthetics I had been using produced some pretty wacky results in my brake system. The secret this time is to stick with non-synthetic DOT Class 3 fluid to be on the safe side. This type is compatible with the old-style seals and brake components. I ended up flushing out the synthetics and the DOT Class 4 fluids. Like this one. And this one. And replacing it with good old DOT3. I haven't had a problem since. Caliper secret number 4 is use DOT3 non-synthetic fluid in older systems. I have to take some blame for ignoring secret number 5. You see, I was so psyched to get those parts in the mail. I couldn't wait to get started, taking things apart, cleaning off rust, planning my video program shots, and generally just getting ahead of myself. I should have opened the boxes of new parts and directly compared them with the old parts. Yep, you guessed it, defects. I ordered 2 brand new rear calipers, left and right. The first one I was working with was exactly correct. Notice the parking brake lever and pivot point held in by a roll pin. What I didn't notice was that the other side was missing the pivot and the pin. Had I inspected the goods upon receipt, I could have promptly returned them for a replacement. I was now too far into it, and I resorted to drilling out the roll pin on the old caliper, and then moving the old pivot to the brand new caliper. I'm going to accept about 20% of the blame, with most of the rest going to whoever didn't assemble it right. And the inspector at the factory who missed it. Oh, and the inspector at the vendor who shipped it to me without checking. But I didn't check it right away either. It works now, but caliper secret number 5 is definitely inspect all parts immediately upon receipt. None of our videos are animal tested. We test all of our videos on subscribers like you. Thank you.